Hello everyone, welcome to the June State TA Day webinar. Please let me know if you can see our team and hear my voice. Then we will go ahead and get started. I can see you, Elizabeth.
Yay, awesome, thank you.
All right, great, thanks so much for your response. And Elizabeth, do you have slides for us?
I don't. Actually, my time is actually going to be kind of brief for this update. I don't have a ton to update you on. We are getting ready to finalize our fiscal year with Mile High United Way, and so I am preparing our annual childcare reports. Not a whole lot to report out. Families are getting back to a new normal now that we are winding down with COVID, thank goodness. And so we are going back to our usual inquiries from families seeking childcare, with a little bit of a caveat, of course, that families are still struggling to find availability, and now with the impact that COVID has had on families, it is a little bit challenging for them to get back to that normal. But our navigators, they are extremely talented, and they are trained both on the childcare and 211 side, so that we can provide wraparound services to our families. And not only are we offering childcare license referrals, but we're also seeking out for that unmet need that relates to basic needs. Do they need rent payment assistance? Are they okay with food? Do they need clothing? Now that kiddos are on, for a break from school, what does that look like for them? And so our families are just struggling in that sense, but our navigators are extremely talented, and they know how to dig further for those needs and provide the appropriate referrals based off of their situation. And so as we begin our new fiscal year, we will look into what does that look like for our families moving forward, and how can we improve our services so that we can continue offering quality services to our families and meet their needs. I am happy to report that our enhanced referrals, meaning navigators assisting our families calling to find availability, those have gone up. Our families are taking advantage of that service, which is great. And our navigators, we're doing everything that we can so that we can find availability for them. And so glad to see that those numbers are going up. We are revamping our processes for enhanced referrals. And so we're just looking out for ways here and there that we can enhance our services. And of course, always looking at the data. So once I have that annual report, I will send it your way so that you on your side can look and see what that looks like. And of course, as always, if you have any concerns or if you have any suggestions on how we can improve our services within your community, or how we can work together better, please do let me know. I am more than happy to connect with you, and more than happy to see what we can do for our families, especially now that we're getting back to a new normal, which is good news for everyone.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Does anyone have any questions for Elizabeth? And she did not have a proper introduction. That was wrong on my part. I apologize. Elizabeth works with the CCR&R call center, for those of you that are not familiar with her, but I think everyone knows Elizabeth. All right, no questions so far. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
Next up, we have Melissa from the Clayton team with the QRIS rating. Do you have slides for us, Melissa?
I do.
All right, hold on. Okay. We can see your slides.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. So yeah, just a few updates on the Colorado Shines ratings, and just some reminders and some additional resources to share today. But first, starting off with scheduling. So just wanted to remind folks, if people are interested in that virtual rating, whether it's their first time or they're getting ready to expire, do be sure they submit their application. And for those that are new to ratings, it can take up to 90 days to get them in the schedule, but it could be sooner depending. If they're ready to go now, we might be able to get them in even sooner. So really important for them to watch for emails from Josh Franklin and be responsive to him, because he's sending out a lot of emails where he's saying, hey, are you ready to rate? What's your status? And checking in with providers often to try to get folks scheduled. So for those that are expiring, it's also really helpful to notify Josh. You can send a Salesforce chatter or email to him to just let them know that they are expiring so he can prioritize. He does track that information as well, but it's really helpful if you guys give an extra notice of that if you can. And then just keep watching for emails from him and being responsive to those so we can get folks out of the queue and into their rating. So next part is resources here. So really just wanted to share a little bit about Clayton's website here. So this is our main page, our main department page. You can visit the project web pages, which are all these here with the arrows, to get updates about each particular project and a lot of resources and information. You can also find links to register for all of our training offerings. You can see recorded coaches meetings, recorded Q&A sessions, and a lot more. Additional resource that's always there is the Colorado Shines question and answer sessions. Those are the third Friday of every month, and invites are sent out to councils or programs coming up in the rating or that are already in the rating. So yeah, check out our website. There's lots of updates, lots of resources. All the virtual rating resources are still there on the Colorado Shines rating page. And that's where you'll find those recorded Q&As and additional information there. Up-to-date evidence guides are also found on our website in that Colorado Shines ratings tab. Next up here is training. So our quality advancement team, which is our ERS state anchors, they are continuing to offer free half-day training thanks to the preschool development grant and their work with our state partners here. So we're offering free half-day in ECHRS 3, ITRS 3, and FICRS 3, and we're going to be able to offer that all the way through December 2021. So encourage ECE staff to register to learn more about the newest editions of the scale, because whenever we are back in person, we will be transitioning scales. So really good to get trained on the newest versions now, especially while they're free. So here is a flyer that went out. This one's revised slightly, but this is a flyer that went out that originally was saying that we had sessions till fall. Now we're extending that through winter. I will have Monica share this flyer with you guys along with my slides as well, so you can go to all the resources and then make sure folks get registered and help spread the news there. And so right now we have sessions scheduled. July sessions are pretty filled up. There's still some room in some of them, and we have sessions every month through September that are already posted and can be registered for. The rest of fall and winter sessions are going to be posted next month. So those will all be up on Clayton's website for folks to get registered. So for questions, we recently created this new email here that's Colorado Shines Indicators. This goes to our quality data team. So if providers or even you guys have questions about some of the indicators and just need a little bit of clarification on those, you don't have to wait till the Q&A sessions. You can always shoot our wonderful quality data team an email and they'll get back to you with some answers. And then for questions about the environment rating scales, the quality advancement team is your best resource. So this email is their team email, ERS scheduling, and they will answer any environment rating scale questions you have as folks prepare for ratings. So that is all I have for you today. So thank you guys, and we'll be sharing the slides and that training flyer with you guys after the session.
I do have a question, Melissa. It says, can programs request a, oh, hold on. Okay. Did you address that one already?
Sorry, I think you cut out. Can programs request, what was that?
Can programs request a 3 virtual rating? A rumor we heard. I don't know what that means.
A free?
Kelly, can I, like an ERS 3 virtual rating? Is that what you mean, Kelly? Yes, no. Well, anyway, go ahead, Melissa. You can answer that.
If we're talking about ERS 3, we're not doing those observations virtually right now, just because those scales are really focused on language, and it's really hard to have teachers record their language and us evaluate them on the 3rd editions in a virtual format. So virtual ratings are still using the R editions, but there's lots of things, of course, similar between the two. So going through a virtual rating, you would have an R version rating, but whenever we get back to in-person, we'll be moving to 3rd editions.
Thanks, Melissa. And then when will we receive the new evidence point guide framework? Not yet. We don't have a date for that exactly yet. We're still discussing, but you guys will have plenty of time. We want everyone to be on the same page and have time to learn how to use them and work with programs so they know all the information. So it won't be like tomorrow. You'll have plenty of time. How's Colorado Shines handling the new PDIS credential system? As of last week, sorry, it didn't pop up correctly on my screen. As of last week, the self-assessment IPDP did not transfer. Applications for credentials were not processed. Can you address that, Melissa, about how you guys are reviewing that?
Yeah, I mean, we are working closely with CDE, who really manages that PDIS portion. So I know there's been, some hiccups and stuff along the way with transitions, but we do reach out to CDE and they provide us, like for each program that goes through the rating, and they provide us their credential levels and we're cross-checking those things. So we are working closely with them to get the most accurate information for staff and where everyone's standing. There is a process with PDIS where directors need to confirm their staff, and so communication went out from the state about that, I believe last week, to get providers to get directors or family home providers to confirm staff through the system. So there is a step there that needs to be taken. So yeah, if you haven't seen that, check back through, make sure you've seen that communication from the state on instructions for that.
Thanks, Melissa. And then there's one more question. It says, are you aware of any CDC changes to reintroduce soft toys, et cetera, into the classroom?
Good question. Right now, there hasn't been any changes to those health recommendations as of yet. We know things are starting to lift, but we expect that to be a little bit more of a gradual process. So I have not seen any changes coming this direction yet.
Thank you. Okay, then we just have a comment. It says programs are struggling with PDIS and extra stress if they are in their rating. PDIS is not working for, okay, is there a question here? No, it's just a comment. Will there be training for coaches on the readiness guide? There will be. We don't have anything scheduled yet, but yes, there will be. All right, that's it for now. Thanks so much, Melissa, and I'll share the slides and that flyer. All right, next up we have our PDG team, Kristen and Angela and Megan. Who's presenting today?
Hey, Monica, this is Kristen. I'll be presenting my screen.
Hi, Angela.
There we go. And if you will just confirm.
I can see it, yeah.
You can see it, perfect. And now I just need to make it a presentation mode. So you're still seeing the screen, right? But we're in presenter mode. Perfect. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy almost Friday. Angela and I are excited to be here to give you a few new updates around our PDG strategies. So I will let Angela kick us off with some conversation around the business training and consultation updates for the work that we're doing with the small business development centers and you all.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for having us today. I know we talk about business training each month, but we just want to make sure that you're up to date with all the upcoming trainings and any of the feedback that we receive from small business development centers. We actually had a chance to meet with all of the small business development centers that are participating in the project this morning and talked through some of the challenges they're seeing on their end and the opportunities that we have to further our partnership with early childhood councils. So first on our list is the Happening Now training. So that's our on-demand training on budgeting, cash flow, and taxes for family childcare homes. And this is a 9-module on-demand course that can also be paired with at least 2 consultation hours. That's our one-on-one time with their small business development center consultants. And with this, they've seen about 60 registrations for folks to go through, but they've only seen 5 people actually go from the registration process to their on-demand system, which is very similar to the PDIS system. And then from there, they've only had 2 people actually complete the entire series. And so these 9 modules are actually shorter than the live trainings that they would go through. I can't recall the total hours. I believe it's around 9 hours or so, maybe even less. Kristen, do you remember offhand? I'll have to look that up. So apologies for not having that number in front of me, but this is supposed to be a snapshot. They're short trainings to go through each of these areas as mentioned, and they're having some trouble with that retention and enrollment process. So we brainstormed today that maybe it's an opportunity to take the list of registrants and match that with the early childhood councils across the state since it's open statewide, and maybe see if some of the coaches have some time to reach out to the programs and see if they're having trouble with any of the technology that's involved with the training, or just see if there's any, intimidation factors around budgeting and cash flow that maybe that's, holding that program back from participating fully, because they did take the time to sign up. So I know that there is some interest there for them to participate, and maybe it's just a scheduling thing where they signed up and then they realized they just don't have a ton of capacity at the moment. But we were hoping that some of the council coaches might be interested in just helping us troubleshoot and find out a little bit more about where these programs are at. The SBDC said they have been emailing folks who did sign up to say, hey, you still have time to complete your training and that type of thing. But that passive communication hasn't really gone further into, retaining some of those individuals. So that's one area where I think we'll do some individual outreach to folks, but just wanted to present it here today to let you know that that's on our radar, and we're hoping to see some more uptake in the on-demand because this is a testing phase. And so we're trying to see, between the live trainings and this on-demand training, what are the programs getting out of the process? What are some of the barriers or concerns they have about each of these types of trainings? So if we're not seeing many people go through the on-demand, we'll have to go back to the drawing board and see if that's the place where we want to be with some of the business training. So I just wanted to be kind of transparent about where we are and some of our learnings, and that is a current barrier, and just wanted to start that conversation. So, please do look out for an email from us if there's a possibility of a couple of programs in your area to see what we can do about, helping them sign up and go through the training process. And then we just did want to share too that there are some upcoming live trainings. So Denver Metro is having a startup training series that should launch in July. We don't have the exact launch date yet, but we will send that around in the ECC newsletter as soon as we have that date live. And then Aurora SBDC is having their first English training coming up in the middle of July. And so that will be a series of 6 Tuesdays from July through August. And so we're excited to get that started for family childcare homes. And again, we'll share these links in the slides, and then that will be also in the ECC newsletter all of the Fridays leading up to the launch of that training. So whatever you can do to push out both the on-demand training series and any of these live training series, we would be very grateful. So it's not just open to the local ones, but it is available statewide. So if homes or centers or programs that are doing startup and expansion in your area might be interested in these upcoming live trainings, please do push it out to them and see if that's something that might help them. And on that same note, on our next slide, I'll talk a little bit about your opportunity to participate. But I would be remiss to not mention our consultation sheet. Again, if you're not super familiar with which small business development centers service your area, we did create a sheet that shows the alignment of which SBDC would be your local partner. For the consultation component, they are trying to match local programs with the local SBDCs. So that is a little bit different than how we're working with the trainings. The training is statewide. But the consultation, they really want us to work with their home SBDC networks because some of the funding streams that they might have access to are locally driven, so they have that community level data. And then they have the national and state funding opportunities as well. So make sure that you do check in on that if you don't already have access to your local SBDC contact information. So on the next slide, wanted to just chat again about Early Childhood Council participation in this project. So we have a few SBDCs that have been tasked with helping the SBDCs write their curriculum or maybe just review their curriculum as they're going through it. We've had a few challenges with communication on this, and so we encourage you to reach out to us if you haven't heard from your local SBDC and they're participating in the training component. This should just happen once. So if this is like the second or third training that they're having, you wouldn't necessarily have to review that curriculum every time. So that's one caveat. But if you haven't been contacted or have been having trouble with some communication, reach out. We can help troubleshoot any of those concerns and make sure that we get that participation on track, because the councils have such an in-depth knowledge of what some of the barriers are for programs, whether it's technological or budget or scheduling, and making that time to be able to go to a training like this. So that feedback doesn't get lost with the SBDCs. We want to make sure that they're keeping all of that top of mind. And case in point, in Denver, for instance, they had provided a really, really in-depth business training last year, and that wasn't necessarily where our providers are at. And so they've actually helped rewrite most of the curriculum at a more introductory level to make sure that programs find it accessible, and they have really strong takeaways from the process. And hopefully we can have like a 1.0 and a 2.0 at some point, but we want to make sure that we get these early trainings right before we progress into some of those more in-depth opportunities in the future. So this is, again, an iterative process. We're having a lot of lessons learned, and we want to make sure that councils are able to participate in as much of the process as possible. And that being said, we also want every early childhood council to take the opportunity to participate in a full training series, or maybe if you don't have capacity, at least one or two trainings within one of the series this year. And so we put some funding aside in the GAE to allow for payment to coaches that are able to attend these virtual trainings. And so they're available usually weeknights, and we've had a few do some on weekends as well. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up and attend one of these trainings yet and you're not sure where to get started, feel free to reach out to Kristen and I. Again, when we share these training dates, it's not just for marketing purposes, but it is also for you to consider if any of your coaches have some time to attend. So that way you get a feel for what the trainings are like. You can, again, share feedback with us on, is there anything constructive that we need to share, what's going well, and, what could be changed or improved. And then from that, you'll have a better chance of explaining or a better opportunity to explain, how programs can approach these trainings and what they'll get out of it when they attend. So a lot of opportunity there to have everybody participate at some point this year. And then last but not least, we have an opportunity for folks to just do some miscellaneous type work with SBDC. So again, continuing to coach them on timing of these trainings, just check in on what marketing needs to happen, and then what changes they might, want to make for some of their upcoming opportunities. So these are all supported through the GAE. And again, if you have questions about how you might bill OEC for some of this, Kristen and I are here to set up a meeting anytime. You can also use any of the links at the bottom of this slide to access the guidance for this or the invoice documents, and just reach out to us at any point if you have questions. And then last but not least, for those that are currently active in the project, I did want to just flag that our invoicing is going to look a little different for the end of the fiscal year. So we are asking that you submit the May invoices as soon as possible, and that anybody who is participating in trainings that are going on in June, our biggest concern is getting things done by July 7th. And so ideally you would have your invoice completed by July 7th, but knowing that everyone has to close the year, generally speaking, with any of their funding streams, at the very least, we need an estimate of how many hours you are going to bill for by July 7th. So we do have that like little asterisk. If you can't get your invoice in by that deadline, it's not the end of the world, but we would like to have a really strong estimate on how many hours you'll need to bill for. So that's just one change from our normal invoicing process that I did want to flag for councils here today. And I've done some outreach, generally speaking, but if you hadn't heard from me, this is just something I wanted to share today. And then I'll pass it over to Kristen to give some more updates.
Okay, thank you, Angela. So I'm excited to tee up an opportunity for you all that is going to be available in July. I'm going to be very transparent and tell you that we're still working on this application, and we've gotten some great feedback from ECLA and from the Family Resource Center Association to make sure we're designing it in the best way possible for local entities. So I don't have every fine detail worked out quite yet, but since this is the end of June already, I wanted to just make sure that I had this on your radar as it will become available sometime in July. So I keep calling it, but what it is the PDG Coordination and Collaboration. We're calling it C2 because who doesn't love an acronym? Planning MiniGrant. And the purpose of the MiniGrant really is to help local entities work together on a plan for a coordination strategy or strategies in the broader birth to 5 system in their community. So we're talking about, any programs that support families with children birth to 5. That could be parenting programs or early care and learning programs or early intervention or fatherhood supports or basic needs for families with young children like housing and food supports. But this is to help those local organizations come together and really better coordinate around a strategy or strategies that fall within one of the 5 buckets that you see below, so that it's easier for families with young children in their community to access services that they need. And then the dual purpose behind the Planning MiniGrant is really that as these local entities work together to build their coordination plan, that they're piloting 2 new tools that are intended to make this work easier, and that will be iterated on. Again, I keep saying that's PDG's favorite buzzword, next year, so that we can improve the tools and their usability by local organizations. And so many of you have been involved in the development of these tools. The collaboration guide is the tool that was created for us by Government Performance Solutions, or GPS, who worked with ECLA and FRCA and early childhood councils and family resource centers across the state, as well as our office, to really talk about how ECCs and FRCs can better collaborate. And the other tool has also been very much informed by early childhood councils who either shared their stories with me or participated in a design review team to make sure it was a useful tool. And that's the coordination toolkit, which is really intended to make it easier for local entities, not just ECCs and FRCs, but really however that might be defined. It could be school districts or county governments, human services, or public health, to come together and better coordinate and align their early childhood systems to improve access to services for families. So as communities are engaging in the planning work, they'll be piloting the use of these tools and then giving us feedback so we can improve the tools. So the way the grant will be structured is any of the organizations you see below are eligible to be a lead grantee. And then they will have to identify local partners, other local organizations with which they'll be working, and those local partners will affirm their commitment to the work and to the planning process. And the funding available for this is up to $10,000 per awardee to support this planning process, running from September of 2021 to April of 2022. And again, as I mentioned, the application will be released in July with all of the details on how to apply and what we're really looking for in terms of proposed projects, with an expected close date in August. And I'm going to kick it back over to Angela to give some CDA updates.
Yep, so on the next slide, we are able to just share a few things. So we just closed our May scholarship opportunity. So this isn't really an update around scholarships, as our next period won't be until August. But I did want to share a few new updates around some extensions that have been provided since our last meeting. So the Council for Professional Recognition, for those that may not be familiar, is the national body that oversees the CDA credential. So they set forward all of the guidelines that we have to meet for our own internal scholarship process in Colorado. And, we have to meet all of their guidelines. And so they actually had an original extension for the verification visits through June of this year that they recently extended through to the end of December. And so this is the last piece of the CDA scholarship process where someone has an in-person visit to review their portfolio of resources, where they check their training documentation, experience documentation, and things of that nature. And then they do a 2-hour competency visit where someone, teaches in a classroom or within their family child care home, and they just observe, the quality of the services there. And so due to public health guidance, we haven't been able to do those in Colorado until about the last month and a half or so, or probably more likely the last month. And so in that case, we've been communicating with them very frequently that our public health guidance hadn't lifted yet, and that this wasn't possible. And so we wanted to make sure that folks had enough time to get their in-person visit scheduled. And so they were able to extend this verification visit nationally to the end of December. And so for those that haven't been able to schedule their verification visit, the childcare licensing observation waiver is still a great tool to use. So we encourage people to continue to apply for that while they're waiting to schedule their visit with the PD specialists, because our PD specialists are only able to do 3 per week if they're even able to do that many. So we don't have, we have a little over 100 of these PD specialists across the state, and I'm not entirely sure how active each person is. So it's going to take us a little while to get through the backlog of folks that have been waiting to do this visit for a little over a year. So we've had people that have been probably waiting since maybe even February of last year, because they were probably intending to schedule in April or May or that type of thing. So we have over a year's worth of folks to catch up on, and then all of the current scholarship awardees that are kind of starting to queue up into that space as they're completing their training and education experience time. So just wanted to share those 2 links again in this set of slides when you get it after the meeting. And then last but not least, wanted to close on the conversation around PD specialist recruitment. So activities around that are continuing. Again, just to refresh everyone's memories, we're talking about PD specialist recruitment because this is the person that does that end verification visit at the end of the CDA process. And we need more folks that speak languages other than English. So we have a couple of folks that can do the in-person visits in Spanish, but for someone to be able to do their in-person visit in any other language, the PD specialist has to speak that language fluently. We cannot have an interpreter to do these visits with them. It has to be someone who can speak it fluently. So we're looking at opportunities to recruit a more linguistically diverse PD specialist workforce to support CDA candidates, especially as we look towards the CDA being available for a prior learning assessment for higher education credits. So again, we're thinking really hard about pathways right now, and the CDA is definitely a pathway on our radar, especially as we have more funding coming available for workforce through recent bill passage of 236, and then as we're looking at ARP funding planning. So again, just wanted to pull that full circle of why these PD specialists are important, not just to the CDA scholarship, but to all of our overall pathway conversations, and I'm looking forward to talking with councils a little bit more about how we might be able to support this pathway. So I will, have more updates on that over the coming months, but just wanted to flag that that is an ongoing conversation. And if you have a particular interest in talking about this, please do reach out to me directly, and we can set up some time to brainstorm. And I think I saw a question in the box. No, I think that was already addressed. Perfect. So if there's any other questions, again, reach out to Kristen and I, and we just appreciate your time today.
Thank you guys so much. Next up, we have information about the PDIS refresh, and we have Jennifer McDonald and Lisa Matter. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here as always. I'm coming to you today from Dad's shop in Washington. In case you're wondering, there's no background blurring on this tool, so that's where I'm coming from. Who's sharing screen? Is that you, Jen?
Jen is, yes.
Okay, Jen, you want to go ahead and go to the slides, because that's not the screen we have from you right now. I'm going to say thank you to Rachel Hubbard, put into the question and answer pane just a minute ago. There's been some headaches and bugs with the new PDIS, and this session this afternoon is to follow up the last session we were on when we said, here's what's coming, and now we are at it's launched. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it's going. And so before we get into what we want to tell you about, we want to invite all of you to pause right now, shift back to this screen, get into that question and answer, and type in what is the biggest headache that either you have that in your experience with working with the new system, or what you're hearing most often. There we go, Jen, from the providers in your community. Because yes, there are bugs, and there are some features that people don't know about yet. So I want to make sure that everybody comes in and elevates those, so that we won't address them right away. But if you can start putting those into the chat, into the question and answer pane, then we can make sure we address everything we can address here today, and address everything that through FAQs or other strategies to make sure the information you need, to Rachel's point, is coming out. Okay, I see these start to pop in, so I'm not going to read them right now, but thank you for all of you for putting those in. We'll start diving into them. Where I want to start, though, just like we did the last time we were here, is why do we have this PDIS? Why are we here? So that we, even as we're working out these bugs, we're always keeping in mind what our shared big goal is. Things that are necessary and things that matter for the workforce. As I said, I'm here in my dad's shop, and it's so fun to look around and see all the things that are necessary for building things, for fixing. There's all the car parts of a 1956 Crown Victoria behind me because he's fixing it. And there's things that matter to him. It's pictures of him playing football in high school and college, and with the Los Angeles Rams, and memorials from from friends of his that have passed on. And that is what the PDIS is for our providers. It's necessary, and it's things that matter to them individually. So as those questions come in, it sometimes can seem like, where's my certificate? It's necessary that I have it. But it also matters to them, that it's their place for having all of their growth and learning in one place, and we want it to be the best system that it can be. And I also just I really appreciated whoever is the magic behind that. I don't know if you're here today, getting the ECLA strategic plan out today and really seeing those connections between what the workforce needs and what you all collectively are working on, and how that connects with this work today. So all of our systems, we're all working together again to preserve that innate school readiness that our children bring. And in the narrow piece of the PDIS, we're preserving it through the workforce, supporting the workforce to be able to do that. And just like your goal is, to have a responsive statewide system, to do what you can to advocate for that, which again, thank you for putting all those things in the chat and advocating, living out your strategic plan right now. this system should allow you to be able to focus on what you want to do locally when it's running smoothly. And your goals to have a system where you can really be strategic about your direct services and elevate the workforce through the projects that you do. We want this system to do all the necessary things for you. And data, a goal you have, a goal we all have, to ensure that we understand. That was one of the things that we couldn't quite get out of the old system, was who really is our workforce. And in the pandemic, we really have recognized, even more than ever before, we really need to know who the workforce is, and be able to understand them more in a more nuanced and nimble way. And this system is intended to do that. So the features that we're going to prioritize for discussion today focus on that specific goal of this smooth and connection system. Again, as we talked about pre-launch and now we're in post-launch, where are the places where the smoothness is not happening? And Rachel, when you said there's a lot of bugs and they're causing big problems, there are some known bugs and we have solutions for those. We also know that features, this system has way more features than the old system. And even when the features aren't working exactly right, we have a lot more potential to fix them than we did with the old system. The old system was kind of tilted bugs to features. There were more bugs than features, and we couldn't fix really either of them. And now we're tilted more features than bugs, and we think we can fix both. So Monica, if you'll go to the second slide, or Jen, who is ever showing the slides. We do want to start with just a celebration of these things, which are super exciting to see how many users are in the system. On that first day on Monday, I was looking, every time I logged in, the number of users who had logged in went up by 100 or 200 every time. So we're super excited that the workforce trusts that this is a place where they get what's necessary to them and things that matter to them, which you can see by these 5,000 course completions that have happened roughly in 10 days. Self-assessments are happening, and I do see, I've just in glancing at the chat, I can see that just a couple questions about that, so we will address that. New users, people who haven't been in the system before. Credential applications, new for the new credential, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. And the really exciting thing that is one of our new features that we have just one, which is the director qualification application. That is a feature that we're testing out so that it can grow. Remember when we talked last time, we said this build happened in less than 6 months, and you don't get Rome or Amazon in 6 months, but we get enough of necessary features and enough of things that people can hold on to that matter to them that we think we can build what we need next. So let's see, where are we? I'm gonna, Jen, give you the next 2 slides, and I'm gonna start looking at those questions. So to make sure that we're addressing them. Mute myself.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? You can hear me now? Okay, good. I'm having some camera difficulties, so I just wanted to make sure this black box is, that's apparently what you can see of me, but hopefully you can see my screen. So we do know there are some...
Muffled.
I'm muffled?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet it's not using my mic either. Sorry. All right, I'm gonna lean in closer to the computer and we'll see if it helps. Does that help?
Yes, a little bit.
Is that better?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. So we do know there are some login challenges, and I saw some questions in the chat about this. According to the help desk, this is about 75% of the questions that we're getting from folks. So we know and acknowledge that this is a pain point right now. Couple of things to know. If users who are ATS, QRIS, or have licensing accounts have their PDIS username was edited, it was appended with that PDIS in it. An email went out on Go Live Day on Monday with instructions about how to log in if that situation applies to you. So look for that email if you think that situation applies to you. However, the other known issue is that we're finding that some folks are not getting emails. It seems like there was a situation in the data migration where older email addresses came over instead of the latest email in the system. We are working to correct that issue as well. But if you have not received any emails from the system, that means that you probably have the incorrect email for you in the new system. It's an easy fix. And the best thing to do is to contact the help desk. So for those who have not, we think we've resolved the issue and we're working towards updating users' accounts so that correct emails will be in there, and we're going to resend out an email. But if you're not getting a password reset, that could be one of the known issues. The other known issue is that Salesforce, which is half of the back end of the new PDAS, also has a password reset bug that we're working with, and we're finding that not all the emails are going out. Again, if you contact the help desk, this is something that they can quickly fix on the back end. I acknowledge and share in the frustration that when the instructions are to select forget password and then you never get the email, it is frustrating, and I apologize for that. The good news is once people are getting logged in, as you can see there, they are able to do a lot of things in the system. And I want to pause real quick, Lisa, because I'm not able to speak and read questions at the same time. If there are other specific questions about login before I go on to some of the other stuff.
I do see a couple. Rachel says folks are struggling with receiving an email to reset password, and I want to reiterate what Jen said there. If you don't get it in 5 to 10 minutes, immediately email the help desk, and that's the new help desk email address. That's the CDHS. Am I right about that, Jen?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So because that's a known bug, we want to make sure that everybody, people know right away. If you don't get that, and maybe 5 minutes, because there's a number of reasons it could be wrong, but all of them require help desk fix. So we don't want people hung up on the login. And we know that lots of people are doing that. So you are encouraging people. So thank you for that. Let me just, I'm just looking to see real quick if there's, I gotta make this bigger. You guys are doing a great job of getting questions in here. We so appreciate this because we can address things that we have. So I appreciate that. And I'm just looking through to see if there's anything else at login. I don't think there's anything else with login particularly.
Okay, level 2 hours. We have heard reports about some level 2 hours not appearing as expected. Each one of those courses has been tagged with L2 hours as we think are appropriate, but over the last 6 years, there might have been a couple courses that we missed that L2 tag on. So if there are specific level 2 courses or hours that you think you're missing, again, reach out to us so that we can make sure that everything is tagged correctly. Same thing with missing courses. We did discover day after go live that there was a set of courses that were missed in the data migration. We have a plan in place, and those should be uploaded hopefully by the end of this week, knowing today's Thursday, but if not, hopefully by early next week. And again, I apologize for that. We did migrate, just to give you a little sense of scale, over 1 million course records into the new system. So other things you might be hearing, documents. So not all documents were able to be migrated in the data migration process. That is again another a bit of a hiccup in the new system. The good news is the old PDIS, legacy PDIS, is still available. So we are recommending that if users are not seeing all of their documents, to go into legacy PDIS, and you would do that through the old PDIS web address, download documents, and then re-upload them into the new system. Another change for the new system is that, and Lisa's going to talk about this a little bit more in just a minute, is that we've moved from Credential 2.0 to Credential 3.0. And the points have changed in Credential 3.0. So for that reason, points that were showing in the legacy system were not migrated over because they've changed a little bit. And so if we had migrated points over, they wouldn't be correct in the new system in 3.0. We are hoping to show soon in an upcoming enhancement release so that folks can see their points in the system without having to contact the help desk. In the meantime, we do have, and Lisa's going to share out a one-page scoring sheet for folks for the Credential 3.0. And we're hoping that the new system or the new credential is much easier for folks to quickly add up and score their points. Last thing I want to say, even after we get into answer a bunch of these specific questions, is that we really do want to hear from you directly. Whether or not you really are having frustrations with the system, or if you like it as well, that would be nice to hear as well. We know there's going to be bumps in the road. This is, you know, as Lisa said, we got the system up and out very quickly. And one of the benefits of that is that folks are getting in there and they're able to apply for credentials and being awarded credentials now. Some of the drawbacks of that quick go live is that we have a few of these road bumps that we're going to work our way through. And I'm hoping we can do it with a mindset of continuous quality improvement. At least that's kind of the hat that we're playing, or that we're wearing as we move through the process. So we appreciate your partnership. We appreciate your patience. But we're also listening. And so I have my email right there on the screen. It's easy to spell. It's McDonald, just like the cheeseburger. So really do feel free to reach out and let us know if you have issues. And Lisa, are there other questions that we should talk through?
Okay, I'm unmuted, good. There's a couple of questions that I think are probably worth pausing on at this moment. I think this is probably an API issue. Sarah Frenzel says the self-assessment and the individual professional development plan check marks are not showing up on the QRIS homepage in the new system. I'm not sure about the answer to that, and I think we have to follow up and come back to that.
Agreed. And actually, that would be a great example of that. Is a comment that I have not heard before. So, and that would be something that we would definitely want to research and log. So if you could email me directly with that issue, that would be very, very helpful.
Okay. And that's similar to Karen says, self-assessment and individual professional development plan did not roll over, problematic for programs that are rating or will rating soon. And so this might be part of a transition issue, because the self-assessment and individual professional development plan are treated a little bit differently in the new credential. And it might be part of kind of the logic behind that caused it to be a miss in the way that the data is being pulled across.
We do have good news though on the self-assessment, is that it went from 128 questions to 35.
Yeah.
And the new self-assessment, I think, as you saw, there were over 1,000 completions on that so far. The good news is if once folks get over to the learning portion of PDIS, we now have targeted course recommendations based on that self-assessment data. Previously, in the old system, after the self-assessment, it basically recommended every single course available in the system. So we have hopefully improved upon that, so it's more targeted based on folks' individual self-assessment results.
Yeah. And then Jen, there's a couple questions. Jessica Jones says the directions indicate upload documents with a specific, with quotes around this detail button, but there's no detail button. And Heather Hawk says submit, but the submit button does not work and the save and close button does not work. And typically the submit button won't work if there's a required field that's not been filled, there's been filled incorrectly.
Correct.
But
yeah.
But the save and close should still work. Does that make sense to you?
It will, and it kind of depends on where you are in the system to give a good answer for that one. As far as the detail button, that would be one, and I'm just visualizing it in my mind. So, but that would be an interesting potential bug that we would appreciate an email on. because you
With a
should be seeing a detail. Yeah, you should be seeing a detail button that looks like, I think, an eye, I believe, or something like an eyeball. So if you're not, that would be a helpful thing to let us know. That you're right about the submit button, Lisa, that won't enable if there's a required field that hasn't been filled out. But the save and close should be working if the submit is not enabled. So, but it really also depends on the particular screen. I did see a question in the chat about the response time for the help desk. I understand that there we currently have 4 help desk staff taking calls for the system. I think we have emails that went out to about 50,000 users so far. We've got 2 new staff. They just started yesterday to hopefully take some of the load off of the help desk staff and get questions answered in a more timely manner, and another manager on board to help as well. So I'm hoping that those response times, as the help desk learns the system, as we all learn the system together, will get more timely. But please do bear with us as we are attempting to respond to everybody's questions in a timely manner.
Yeah. And I wonder if somebody else has it handy, the PDIS help desk email to put into the answers here to make sure we get that, but we'll make sure we have that in the communication after. I'm noticing a kind of a theme here is around one core thing for everybody here is really focused in on those programs that are rating right away and in the transition. And Jen and I are not experts on what the workarounds are. However, I would say that when you're reaching out to the help desk, to really tag that this is a program that's in their rating window. And we have historically, and all of the help desk will continue to prioritize those programs that need more right-away answers. It right now feels like everybody needs a right-away answer, so it'll be important to note that in your requests. Or I'm working with an individual whose program is rating, and we need to know these things now, how it's working. Okay.
So there's a couple of things I want to point out on the PDIS homepage, and that you don't have to be logged in. So the first one is the place to start to get your login information is the forget password link. Now, understanding the frustration of the 2 issues that we already talked about, which is that email not getting to people. So, but for many users, the forget password link is the place to start if you already have an account. There are instructions right on the homepage about what to do here. The other place to find information is under the Navigating the Colorado Shines PDIS link, which is embedded under the home, and also the help desk. So right there, the help desk is where you'll be able to find the new email address. If you have the old email address, don't worry, it will get forwarded to the new email address, so that's not a problem. Under that help desk link, there are also a large number of FAQs that are detailed and specific and might help you get some of the answers that you're looking for. I see a question about information sent out to providers. So that was actually one of the questions I had for this group, which is what would be the most useful next set of communications? So we have how-to guides, we have a YouTube playlist with video demos, but what specific questions, I mean, would this kind of information be helpful to get sent out to everybody? Or what specifically do you think would be the most useful? I'm doing my teacher pause to see if anybody has anything they want to put in the questions. There will be additional communications coming out. And so if you, like I said, I had my email earlier in the slide deck. This will go out after this session. But I am very, very serious when I say please do reach out and communicate, the good and the bad. about what you're hearing. So the next thing we want to talk about is Credential 3.0, and I will turn it over to Lisa.
And yes, and a lot of questions here related to this. So I think I'm going to talk just at a high level about the credential. We'll get a document that we'll send out with this after the meeting. It just hasn't quite been posted yet. That does have, I wouldn't, yes, it's a score sheet. It's a sheet you can, a one-pager that can use to kind of do that estimating. And we do want to highlight again that like we talked about last time, the scoring behind the credential has changed. It's more simplified. And again, it's that what's necessary and what matters kind of things coming together. So there's a couple of things, and I really appreciate, I know Kristen has left, but she put some great questions and we'll address those. Real specific questions. So as I go through those, I kind of address why and why not are different pieces connected. Yes, it's a change. And yes, it's still a voluntary professional credential that's meant to create a pathway for people who may not have other pathways toward those qualifications to really be able to say, yes, this is me. These are the things that I do. This is what matters. So I'm gonna give you a moment to look at this. Jen calls this the swoosh, how all the components swoosh together into a credential. So just as you look at this, you'll see there's 4 components. Formal education is one. Through a lot of discussion and use of our data, how people were using these things, there's been a creation of a category, a subcategory, a subcomponent called training of special recognition that fits in that formal education. Most people who use EQIT and a Pyramid Plus or a Pyramid Module training to become early childhood teacher qualified, they use it like they would use formal education. They don't take it again. And when it was considered ongoing professional development, someone asked this question. I think Jessica asked, will EQIT and Pyramid still be ongoing PD and training of special recognition? No, they're just training of special recognition. Yes, it many fewer points, but they're points that never expire. So someone could earn those 4 points in formal education, which is one of the 4 components of the new Credential 3.0. So that second component is ongoing professional development. And again, the goal is for it to be more simple so that you can do a better job of estimating what it is, what your credential level is, and so that you can, so it's more clear, and so the logic, the formula behind it work better. Someone asked, is it really true that it's just 1 point for 1 hour? Yes, it's 1 point for 1 hour. So yes, if you took 30 hours of ongoing PD in 1 year, you would, you could do that inside of the PDIS, and those 3 points. Some things, I'm gonna, Jen, have you think on this for just a minute. There might be some things where because you're required to take them again, the point might disappear again. Some things that don't have OPD connected to them.
Right now, all OPD, even for courses that are taken every year, are still handled and count towards those 30 hours. That might not be the case going forward. I don't think, I would expect that to be updated going forward, but that is the current process today. Okay. And yes, CEUs, and it's not on this list exactly, but the document that will come after the webinar, CEUs generally come in pieces of a CEU. So the documentation says 0.1 CEU equals 1 point, 10 CEUs would be 10 points. And again, that's for simplification purposes. And we did take random samples of users and run them through the old Credential 2.0 and Credential 3.0, and the vast majority remained at the same level. So even though some of these were like, whoa, that's a big difference, overall, they stayed at the same level. And then the third component is that experience component. I'm going to scroll through here just for a minute to find there was a good question about this, and I don't remember what it was.
we've defined it, and I will say we're still getting really granularly aligned between licensing and the credential. They're not 100% the same, because the credential has always and will continue to accept all experience in the field, not just the profession of early care and education. Whereas for licensing purposes, currently in licensing rule, experience is direct experience in care and education of young children. And as I hope you all know, the licensing rules and regulations will be out for public comment soon. And so in the process there is that public comment happens and several board reviews, and we should have finalized rules by December. But this is the time when we might be elevating these provider concerns to make sure that we can do as much alignment as possible. And then the fourth component is demonstrated competencies. This was always the intention, that this wouldn't be a bonus section, but is a possible sort of real component of the credential. And currently that is ERS, a class, a TPOT, or a Colorado model evaluation system. And those points are awarded based on the points earned in the observation, just the way they were before. And then you'll see there on the other side of the swoosh is the number of components and the number of points. So those are the minimums. If you've got 2 components, you can earn a level 1 or a level 2 based on your number of points. And if you've got 3 components, you can earn a level 3 up to a level 6 based on your points, so long as your points are also above 36 points. So I'm gonna look back through some of these questions and see which ones we can address here specific to this.
There's one, Lisa, I can answer about the worksheet. The question was, is there a new worksheet? And Lisa said, yes, there is. There was another question about if extra points were still awarded for series points or high training that addressed high needs and so forth. The decision was made to really try and simplify the scoring system, so those extra points are no longer awarded for series courses or high needs courses. And so it's really just a one-to-one.
Yeah, and remember we talked about last time with that job embedded piece, the vision of this system, if we're talking about 2025 here, when it's really running smoothly, maybe 2023, we are, job embedded components will be ongoing professional development. They belong to the educator. They need to be there with the educator. But that is not fully built out yet, but that's where part of where that went. I'm trying to get all of Kristen's questions on one screen so I can look through all of them, because they're basically all about the credential. And I want to make sure it can address them all here. I know she maybe is not here now, but the recording will have these questions. Okay, let me start. She couldn't have possibly typed this all in at once. This must have been a nice copy and paste. Is there a new credential worksheet? Yes, we addressed under professional development, it's really 1 hour for 1 hour, and it would earn 30 points. We understand that people choose training that they want to engage in, and it's valuable, and it is vastly different from the old tiered system, but it is also much more simple for the scoring and estimating. Does coaching still count? We just addressed that. It will still count under OPD, but in a different way, not as an added point on the PD that you're having. Training, the series credentials, this was something that we found that people, one of the things that we did with the old system is really crunch the data of how people were using Credential 2.0, so things like gold iterator reliability or other qualifications being worth 2 points, they weren't used very much, and so that was something that we stepped back. The vast majority of educators did not have those as part of their points. Where can you find the points awarded towards your credential? And I think we can demo this in a minute. The ongoing professional development that has been approved will show up on your dashboard as your ongoing PD hours. That's not necessarily points though. So you will have to kind of estimate using that score sheet.
We are hoping is again in a future enhancement to have that kind of a points calculator that the user can quickly see the way it was in the legacy system. So hopefully that'll be something that we can keep an eye out in the next couple of months. So
yeah. Are the points for formal education the same? The document that's going to come out after this session we'll send to you will have a listing of what each of those formal education pieces, degrees, and coursework are worth. Question 6, when earning the credential level, is it based on the total points in the number of areas? Yes. We saw that on this graphic here. It used to be that a level 3 only needed 2 areas, but now it says 3. Yes, so we do need all 3 areas, and that was in alignment there were some places where licensing qualifications were really different from the credential qualifications, and so that was pulling that alignment more tightly together. Demonstrated competencies were not an area in the old system or a component, and they are now. Since EQ and IT and Pyramid are now considered training of special recognition, are points for those courses awarded under formal ed? Yes. Or under OPD? No. If they're under formal, how many points for each? 2 points. Does the self-assessment still earn 1 point? No. Again, that was something that we looked at the data, and the vast majority of people did complete the self-assessment, and it didn't have a significant impact on their credential levels broadly, and so that is why that part was sort of discontinued. Hi, AW2. They only count as formal education. Which the other side of the place where those 2 things connect, EQIT and Pyramid being in formal ed, means that folks who maybe before had those only 2 component areas, ongoing PD and experience, now they have formal ed, so they have those potentially 1 or more of those 2 courses. We know a lot of people take those courses each year as part of their qualification, so we think that we're not going to keep too many people. Most credential levels will stay the same. How can providers see uploaded previous PD hour certificates? And Jen did answer this in the chat.
I could share my screen if that was something, but I think probably the best resource is there's a video and a how-to guide on this. And there's a new how-to guide coming out. It should be published shortly about how to download a detailed transcript report. One of the nice features of the new system is there's a detailed spreadsheet that each user can download that lists all of their ongoing professional development hours. It tags which hours count as social emotional development and level 2 hours, and it's the same report, hopefully soon, that directors will be able to see and download, and the licensing specialists will be able to see and download. So it will have all their ongoing PD hours in one place. And how-to guides should be up on how to do that shortly.
Sherry says, is there a pathway for EC professionals that do not work in the classroom or license program, but another part of the system? And this credential, this credential is meant to be inclusive of the direct workforce as well as the professionals across the system, across the field. That's where experience is a documented, you can document experience for the credential purposes that's outside of direct care and education. So this is an accessible pathway, assuming that those professionals also engage in professional development and potentially have some formal education. When will community college instructors get credit for teaching courses PD opportunities? Jessica, is your question, do they get credit for their experience for teaching? Or do they, I'm not 100% sure I'm clear on that question, if you want to add some detail to that.
I do see another question about official transcripts. I know that this has come up quite a bit in regards to how they're looking at formal ed. And I will forward on that question to the help desk. I'll be honest, I'm not sure at this moment, but I can find out the correct answer for this. This has been a discussion topic internally, so.
And I would say, historically, the requirements that the legacy system had for what should be on ongoing professional development are the same, and those are pretty well aligned with what licensing expected. That, remember we talked about last time, that big goal is that nobody has to keep those paper things anymore, in theory. Most of them should be, should be documented that way, but transcripts, they might be a little bit different. I'm not sure if we have the exact answer for that.
Yeah, it's the word, the official transcript, I think, which is what's catching me up. I just want to make sure I have I don't want to give misinformation, so.
I'm just checking back through to see if we've answered all the credential questions. And again, there are some credential questions that you have here that are about the integration with QRIS or really timely needs for providers, and just want to reiterate to work with the coach, work with the QRIS team, work with the help desk to make sure that nobody slips through the cracks. Most likely it's a feature that we just need to work out, but it is also possible that there's bugs.
Yeah. Should I highlight the ongoing session starting in June? So to support coaches and directors and other leaders in the system, we will be hosting meetings, 1-hour training sessions twice a week, starting at the end of June and going for as long as needed, but probably through the summer, to highlight some of the new features of the system that apply directly for directors. So, for example, directors can now view they can verify their employees in the system, and for all employees who are verified as a part of their facility, they'll be able to see and run transcript reports for those individuals. They'll also be able to assign training directly to their staff and monitor completions of trainings directly in the system. So there's some exciting stuff that we're excited to show you guys. So there's an email going out to credential coaches. It's going to go out in the weekly, and it'll go out to all program directors with the exact login information and times. But for a save the date, here are the dates and times on your screen. So keep an eye out. If you don't already actually have that email in your inbox right now, it'll be coming out hopefully by the end of the day today. Okay. So where do we go from here? The first place I would start, if just trying to get to learn the new system, it's new for all of us. I'll say that also. Nobody in the world has used the Colorado Shines PDIS the way it is today. So it's been a big learning curve, both internally and I know externally. So I appreciate your patience. We know change is sometimes jarring. We hope that there are some things that are exciting, and I know that some of the functionality we had in the old system that we're looking for in the new system and having it not be there in exactly the same way is a bit of a change for folks. So I appreciate your patience. But I would recommend starting with the how-to guides, keeping an eye out for training announcements. We're going to do our best to offer small instructor-led training sessions. We have 50 to 90,000 active users in the system. Data is a little unreliable from the old system, exactly how many active users we have, but we don't have the bandwidth and the capacity, obviously, to do one-on-one training with all folks in the state. So we tried to do a self-service model around how-to guides and videos, but we can add to those, and we expect to be adding to those as we hear from you guys about things that are pain points or things that are confusing you. So do let us know. Lisa's going to circulate the new Credential 3.0 documents, which we hope will be a useful tool. And also keep an eye out for updates. One of the great things about the new system is we have a lot more control and a lot more ability to make things happen in the way that we want. So it's just a matter of time and money, like all things, but the system will continue to evolve. So keep an eye out for updates. And as I've mentioned a couple times, please do tell us what you think. We know it's not perfect, but we're pretty excited about some of the features in the system. And we're also excited to see over 8,000 people in and using it. So, but we do want to hear from you guys.
Thank you guys so much. Are you guys ready to wrap up?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just making sure I get all the questions. So, but yes, we can hand back.
Okay, thanks so much. So next up we have our newest team member, Melissa Frank Williams, and she will be presenting on the E&E grant. Hello, Melissa.
Hi there. So I have to share, so show my screen. All right, here we go.
You can see you.
Okay.
And
hopefully pretty soon you'll see my screen.
Yep, go ahead and put it in the presentation mode.
Okay.
There we go, thanks.
Perfect. Well, first of all, just hello, everybody. I know I did a brief introduction on the last call, but I have officially passed the 1 month mark, so super excited to be here. And because I've been in this a couple of weeks, I thought it would be good to get in the habit of providing updates, whether it be through this forum or via emails when not doing this forum. But just so folks have an understanding, the councils have an understanding of where things are standing with the E&E. Can I get rid of this? Hold on just a sec. Are you just seeing the presentation and nothing else?
We see you in the presentation.
Okay, and now the presentation, but not the navigation pane?
Correct. We see the little blue glasses.
Yes. Okay. So here we go. And this is just, I know most of you are intimately aware of the components, but if there are new folks on the line, just the basics on the E&E here is a reminder that we have 8.7 million in the pot, and that was allocated during the December special session. Currently, our awards are ranged between 3,000 and 50,000. And the types of projects that are eligible under this funding source are new licensed family child care homes serving birth to 5, new licensed child care centers serving 6 weeks to 5, opening a new classroom, so adding a classroom in the centers for 6 weeks to 5, and changing a license to serve more children in a home, and changing current classroom to support more infants and toddlers. And also there are other projects that potentially could qualify as long as they're increasing the licensed childcare slots for up to age 5. We're funding coaching, professional development, learning and classroom, and other fees related to licensing, as well as capital improvements. And the priority areas are those areas that have low capacity, meaning more children, significantly more children than there are spots that can serve them, underrepresented communities, and with the emphasis on the infant and toddler slots. As of 6/22, so a couple days ago, the total number of applications received is 160. Total grant funds that have actually been encumbered is that 2.3 million, with the total funds remaining at 6.4, and the official number of slots being added with this 2.3 is 1,932. Here is just a representation we've received, meaning that they've just come in the last 5 days, and the licensing specialist is going to be getting to them to move them to the in-process status, but that's $133,000 in requests, and it's just a couple of requests that are still in the queue. Again, this is the eligible is really the amount that's been granted. And then this 3.2 million those are the ones that are in process. And I'll talk about those in a few minutes here. But those are all under review in various stages with, whether it's with the licensing specialist or if it's with the council working with the program and trying to get some ducks in a row. Those are all in the queue. So going back to the number of awards, so that 2.3 million that I mentioned, here's a breakdown by county. So out of 64 counties, 21 have submitted at least one application. And as you can see, some have multiple coming from programs. And I'm going to be sending out to councils a more detailed report that organizes this by council, so you can get in a glance who has applied and what their status is. So stay tuned for that in the next day or so, and I'll send those out to everybody. This is a summary of the funding requests that have come in. So these are apps, that's that eligibility, I'm sorry, the in process bar, the last one that was on the previous slide where it was a $3.2 million figure. These are all in process, and this is the distribution. In total, when you include the ones that are in process now and those that have been awarded, 32 counties out of 64 are represented. Going back to this figure here, and taking a closer look at the applications that are under review, there is 1.3 million that have been in a sort of state where there's multiple reasons why they're there, but they've been in 60 days or older, with the last update about 30 days or older. So one of the things I'm just asking folks to look at once you get those reports, if you do have some that are in a a couple months or older, to take a look at those and see if there's anything additional that could be done with them, or if you want to reach out to me, if I can be of assistance to help with those applications that might have been in the queue for a little while. That would be super helpful. It would give us a stronger indication of where we're going to stand with the number of grants that are going out. So some additional updates. So as a part of the initial legislation that put these funds out, there is a component that has $150,000 set aside for direct solicitation. Direct solicitation is going out for linguistic and culturally competent outreach. So there will be a request for folks to solicit proposals to then assist in communities for that linguistic and culturally competent outreach. Recent legislation was approved, so you may have heard, SB 21236 was approved. And so right now, internally, we're working on some processes. What this does, one of the big pieces around this is it raises the ceiling for the grant amount. So previously it was 50,000, grant amounts can go up to 200,000. The increase, that's the same thing I just said, so let me skip over that. The process for applying will not be a huge difference between what you all are used to now. So we're really looking at amending and adding a couple of components to Salesforce so that we can get those funds out, but it'll just take a couple of weeks to get through that. So we're working on that now. The emphasis will be on capital requests. Certainly other categories are still an option for folks, but this is partly because as we are seeing the additional funds coming from the federal government, there will be more grant opportunities and grant programs that will be released. So for now, we are looking to have the same categories for qualification for the up to $200,000 amount, but really emphasizing capital requests for these funds. And like I said, just stay tuned around those, the process for the application for those, that should be forthcoming. And I know that we're closing in on our 2:30 end time here. So please, please, please feel free to reach out with questions. Also would like to send out a survey to folks. Hopefully you're not over surveys, but it would really be helpful to hear from you how the E&E process is going, what you would like to see strengthened, and what has been working well for you. I really appreciate everyone who has been reaching out and asking the questions, the councils in particular who have questions about the process. It's been really wonderful meeting you, and I hope to hear from more of you. And also thankful for everyone who is putting that information, in the system and following up. That's really helpful too. So don't hesitate to reach out, and really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more information.
Hey, Melissa, there are a few questions. So one says, hi, Melissa, welcome. Are these numbers coming from Salesforce?
They are.
Reports, and yes, they are.
And like I said, I'll be getting more detail to folks via these reports. So I'll send them to you directly, and you can actually see underneath the numbers, what programs, what the status is, whether they're in that eligible category, meaning that they've been granted, which you would likely know because you'll have your MOU, but then also if they're in process and some of the notes around that.
Thank you. Next question is, can programs who have already applied for E&E grants apply for more funds due to the new grant maximum?
Yeah, so that is a work in progress. We're hoping to be able to get some answers to that in the next couple of weeks as we work through some of the revisions to the original legislation.
Then I'm so sorry, can you repeat the 200,000 limit? Then what of the folks who have already applied, can they apply a second time? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll know more.
Work in progress.
With these large amounts, do you see any challenges with reimbursement as long as the appropriate documentation is provided?
No, at this point, the timeline for reimbursement should be the same. I will be taking on the invoice process. I know right now, Monica and team are working to do that. So that will shift to me. So I'll be able to kind of see the full picture. And certainly, if there are any hiccups in the process, I would be your point of contact to move those through. But we really want to make sure we get those to you timely, knowing that the larger amounts are going to be more potentially more challenging with reimbursement.
And can programs that rent apply?
Yes, as long as
they rent their space.
Yeah, as long as you have a letter from your landlord.
All right, any more questions for Melissa? We are recording the webinar, and we will send out all the information in email, and the webinar recording will be on the website.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for staying on a little bit of extra time. Have a great rest of your afternoon and a good weekend. Take care.